Alrighty, looks like we are live. Make sure all the audio levels and everything are good. Alright. Well, we are back at it. Hello once again, everybody. How are you doing? Good to be with you. So, here we are, back at it with Suzerain. Um, during the last, during the last game, we, survived a crisis. Um, Someone got shot outside of the presidential palace, but it was apparently a communist, so I'm kind of intrigued to see what's actually going on there. Um, we were making some reforms. The communists and a few of the other fringe groups had been basically cut out of the political machine because they weren't representative of at least 10%. Um, so, yeah, more of the money is now going to the larger groups. Um, but we'll see. I have no idea where the story is going now. This is an autosave game, so I believe you have to beat the game at least once in order to get the option to play where you can do manual saves. So let's just get to it. Let's just get right to it then. Once again, this is Suzerain. Security measures at the capital had been heightened after the murder of Bernard Circus. The mayor of Holsord reports that everything is under control. Security around the Maroon Palace has increased with the combined efforts of the Holsard Police Department, the Presidential Guard. Additionally, the entrance procedures to the palace are being revised with advice from security professionals. The police chief, Carl Greaser, reported that an investigation has been launched on the murder of Bernard Circus. Emergency meeting! Sus! Sus! The mood in the Situation Room was gloomy. My cabinet members were gathered to discuss the shooting outside the palace. Laius presented the initial report. Bernard Circus was shot dead at 9:03 p.m. in front of the palace gates. He was an elected independent member of the assembly and, as you know, a famous communist. She spat the last word out with some distaste. Hey, aren't you the one who is championing uh, command economies and that sort of thing? The guards at the scene were 50 meters away and immediately took action by responding and killing the assailant, who was identified as a member of the nationalist organization Young Swords. The president and his family were unharmed. Praise God. But why Bernard Circus? An MP shot near the palace. That is absolutely unacceptable. I agree. We are re-evaluating our security measures. However, the recession has affected my ministry negatively. This may well create a dangerous atmosphere where the left-right versus right political violence of the 1920s could spark once again. A return to those days would be devastating. A coup for the reason why our country stagnated for a decade. Nia Morgana, the Minister of Justice, sighed. The Red Youth has condemned the killing, but didn't stop there. They promised revenge. This will in turn spark further aggression from the Young Swords. The whole cycle started because Bernard Circus expressed his views. We can't simply look away. Nia had always been one of the only members of the Justice Ministry truly deserving of the name. She had survived countless attacks on her character while fighting corruption within the ministry, and rising to power had only compounded her sense of moral duty. Freedom of expression is part of our Constitution. We can't have anyone, let alone an MP, shot for voicing different opinions. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with protecting freedom of speech. I fully agree. We should protect freedom of speech. Our laws do, and for good reason. Silencing voices only results in fear and stagnation inside society. We had that before, and know very well how it was. I hear your concerns. Our police do their best to uphold the rights of our citizens. We will prevent such an act from happening again by making sure our security measures are re-evaluated. Minister of Defense Joseph Lancia grunted in approval. He towered over the rest of us in full military uniform, his many war medals conspicuously on display. Agreed, ma'am. Our gendarmerie will also help boost security in the rural areas where possible. There might be more violence to come. We should refrain from making the issue a political one from the start. It will only add fuel to the fire. You're right. We need to calm the situation. Our government is capable to maintain security. Our job will be to reduce tensions. Several police cars rushed past the ruined palace and everyone went silent. Regardless, a full investigation into all involved parties is underway. We will find the subversives and punish them soon enough, Mr. President. I'll do my best to help coordinate the administrative tasks. Justice will be served and the rule of law will return to this country stronger than ever. Only if we stay vigilant as a country. We must think about the upcoming budget. Why does this man look like a pig? A pig with a Hitler mustache. Are they trying to say something subtly? It is too soon to jump to conclusions. Reckless acts will have dire consequences. Agreed. We need to be patient until we have the full picture. Lucian took some notes after checking the latest newspaper and reports. It seems that the tensions between the communists and nationalists will escalate further. It will be very difficult to pass any meaningful change if there is chaos in the country. We can't fix the recession if there isn't stability. You're right. We need to trust our ministers to stabilize the situation if it comes to it. This will be it for today, then. We will convene again soon. Thank you all, and keep us updated. The meeting concluded, and the ministers left the room with concerned looks. It was hard to anticipate what would happen next. All right, let's see what happens. A few days later. Reports of BFF, best friend forever activity. The chief of police, Carl Gracier, reports that two Bludish women with affiliations to the Bludish Freedom Front have been caught in Holsord before they could execute a terror attack at a crowd rally. Both women are listed as wanted criminals and enemies of the state. The arrested women have admitted their intentions to attack the National Front Party's rally at Seoul Square when Kesaro Kibner gave his speech, but rejected any connections to the BFF. Both claimed that they were acting alone. Police reports that the situation is under control and further investigations are underway. I arrived at the front of the doors leading to the Situation Room. Today's security briefing was arranged in two parts, starting with internal matters and moving on to external matters after a short break. The Minister of Interior, Lily Graff, and the Minister of Justice and Law, Nia Morgana, would join us for the first part, the law enforcement briefing. For the second part, the Minister of Defense, Josef Lancia, would join with a few high-ranking officials, including the Chief of the Armed Forces, Vulcan Kruger. I opened the door. Lucian, Nia, and Lilius rose from their seats. Sir, please, take your seats. Everyone in the room sat down except for Lucian. He put on his glasses and went through the documents in front of him. Shortly after, he raised his head to address the attendees. Mr. President, ladies, we will kick off today's meeting with the internal security briefing. I am assuming everyone has already been over the agenda. We all have busy schedules, so without further ado, I will jump into our first topic. As we feared, the political atmosphere has worsened. The reports around the country indicate that tensions are rising as we feared. What is the status on the Bernard Circus investigation? I have received news that this morning that the investigation into the murder of Bernard Circus has concluded. Please enlighten us. The more we know, the better. After further investigation and testimonies, we have confirmed the motive and also the events leading up to the shooting. A few days prior, members of the Red Youth initiated a violent attack on a Young Swords local leader in Jen. We believe the Young Swords then called for revenge, leading to the death of Mr. Circus. Since he often spoke against the Young Swords and the national sentiments in the assembly, he was a big target, not to mention his radical communist views. I don't care who started it. It needs to stop. And the political violence needs to stop now. Yes, we've kept it at bay for so long, but it seems that there are now new triggers. Lilius handed over the report and pointed at a highlighted section in the document. The investigation revealed a very troubling fact. The funding sources of the Red Youth have a clear link to United Cortana. Oh? Are you certain? Yes, we have found the cash trail. Several Red Youth members with ties to United Cortana have been detained, and the information extracted from them points to a preparation for a communist uprising in Swordland. It isn't unusual for the superpowers to influence other nations, but I think this case is a little far-fetched. The left lacks popular support in Swordland. Nia eagerly lifted her hand. I motioned for her to speak. I went over the report in detail. It would be wrong to jump to conclusions about a clear foreign interference yet. United Cortana has humanitarian and cultural ties with many countries, including Swordland. I also don't want to jump to conclusions immediately. We shouldn't create a crisis with them. Nearly 3 decades ago, they funded General Reichert and tried to establish a communist dictatorship in our country. If it was not for Colonel Saul, we would have seen the real crisis. She took a sip from her glass of water and continued. Our police chief, Carl Gracier, has linked the funding channel at the United Cortana Consulate in Benfi. As we all know, the enemies of Swordland are many, but we also have threats inside the country. Our country has always had issues. This is part of our job. If we give up essential reforms to purchase temporary security, we deserve neither freedoms nor security. This is debatable, but yes, we know what more security and surveillance caused this country on President Saul. Let's not forget that President Saul, God bless him, brought stability after a long period of bloodshed and chaos. But moving on. Our highest internal threat comes from the estimated 20,000-strong Bloodish Freedom Front, led by the imprisoned Dulan Arge. They are a banned political organization, now a militant force that is trying to incite racial violence. Are they supported by our bloodish citizens? To some extent. Luckily, they couldn't attract a wide audience of Bloods. But they could potentially attract thousands if anti-Bloodish sentiment spreads in Swordland again. Elias pointed to page 3 of the report. Our intelligence intercepted 2 crates filled with weapons close to Rumburg border. They were filled with military-grade Ka-74s. Hey, gee, I wonder what that's supposed to be. We expect that more have been smuggled in. A group of Bloods caught with these guns at checkpoint not far away. The governor of Bergia, Felix Bronn, is already taking the necessary measures to counter the threat. Rumburg has been acting aggressively in the region for a long time. I am not surprised that they would attempt to weaponize the Bloodish people against us. This is worrying. Very worrying. We need to keep level-headed with Rumburg. They are looking for reasons to take action. They will play dirty while we play nice. It is a battle we will lose. This is grave news, but we must be careful not to stroke the fires of anti-Bloodish sentiment. Unfortunately, Governor Braun is directly causing the tensions to increase with his increasingly anti-Bloodish stance. I must remind you, Governor Braun is directly responsible for the arrest of Dulan Arge, the previous leader of the BFF. It is true that his methods can be extreme at times, but it was his policies that kept the region peaceful over the last decade. He is misusing the powers given to him by Tarkin's soul. The insane authority of the governor is surely a root cause. It would be very difficult to revoke the special status of Bergia under the current circumstances, Miss Morgana. The presidents no longer have the authority Tarkin's soul enjoyed. For now, yes. But with enough justification for it, it would be possible. Anyway, we will be discussing this at a later time. No, I'd like to hear more. As you know, Bergia was given special status by Tarkin's soul after the full-scale uprising by the BFF against the Swordish government in 35. Those couple years were disastrous for Bergia, and Dulan Arge and the BFF declared war on us, openly attacked our people, and occupied entire cities. It was a massive uprising, but I'd like to point out that the longest time they were in control of a city was 2 weeks. I wouldn't call that an occupation. And despite the arrest of Dulan Arge in 44 and the BFF ceasing its activities, the special status of the region were never revoked. Today, the special zone of Bergia gives the governor insane amounts of authority. He was in trouble with the law before for not following the central government's authority. Unfortunately, Bergia has also had its own police forces directly commanded by Governor Braun. They are not part of my ministry and only cooperate when they are forced to do so. This is a problem. Even though our forces have the authority to serve in Bergia, the special zone leaves the security of Bergia mostly in hands of the governor. That leaves my hands tied. Decisions. What to do? So basically, do nothing is number 2. Number 4 is do nothing but give him credit for maintaining stability of the region. Reverse the situation. We don't have full control over Bergia's security. The discriminant of Bergia suffers is maddening. We should find a way to revoke the special status of Bergia one way or another. So annex. Find a way to get control of the security in Bergia. Don't disturb. Give credit, but don't disturb, ultimately. Let's go with that one. We must reverse this situation. It is absurd that the Ministry of Interior doesn't have full control over Bergia's security. I agree. I have some ideas about it already, but we can talk about that at a later time. Nia gestured at Lilius. What is the second most important threat? It is the gang violence that is threatening the Nargis and Agnulan regions. Two prominent organized crime families are at war, and the potential for bloodshed is real. Which two crime families? One is known as the Cornelli, the other is the Skinner Cartel. They used to be allies until a recent disagreement. Both are active in the cities of Narbel and Estord. Elias, I trust that you can handle them. I am doing my best, sir. I shall be honest with you. With our current capabilities, we may not be able to prevent the further arming of separatists while maintaining order in Bergia, Nargis, and England. If the law enforcement budget isn't increased, I can't be fully responsible for what happens. Our police units are spread thin as it is. In light of this information, I might increase the law enforcement budget. We will rid our country from separatists and violent thugs if you do so. I wish you would stop using the word thugs, Lilius. The real problem is corruption, which is fueling the gang violence, and is very likely the reason why these weapons were smuggled in. A higher budget could help us end that. Valid points. Corruption is the root of all evil after all. We can look into corruption once the weapons have been found and the gangs have been beaten. Just like previous administrations, kick the can down the road. This is what's destroying our institutions. Lilius and Nia were openly scowling at each other. Lilius turned back to her notes. Well, this concludes the topics for the internal portion. Thank you for the updates, Miss Gruff, Miss Morgana. Let's move on. Have a good day. Until next time. The two ministers left the room. We took a short break before continuing to the second part. Upon invitation, Josef Lancia, along with three high-ranking officials from the Ministry of Defense, walked into the room. One of the men was none other than General Kruger, the chief of the armed forces. Josef made his way towards the table while others stood by the door. Mr. President. Josef, welcome. I brought General Kruger with me due to the escalation on our borders. General Kruger stepped out forward and saluted. He had a strong jaw with sharp cheekbones. His tall stature, uniform, and medals, combined with his deep and intense stare, made him look threatening. He was in his 70s, yet had a bulky body, the result of his commando training. Not only was he the second most decorated officer in Swordland, he was also the longest serving. Let's salute him. I saluted him. He smiled at the jester and bowed his head in respect. Josef tapped his foot impatiently. He seemed uneasy with the presence of another high-ranking officer in the room. Gentlemen, thanks for coming to the significant gathering. Let's begin. Josef and Valken took their seats at the table while the rest of the officers stood by the door. Mr. President, the situation at the western and northern borders towards Rumburg is very tense. We are observing deployments of divisions closer to our border. Rumburg has been acting increasingly expansionist in the past decades, and also interfered in Agnola, but now they have turned their sights on us. What is your current strategy? Patrolling close to the borders with our border force and keeping Army Reserve divisions near. It seems like they want to increase the pressure both externally and internally. Mr. President, if I may. Please, General. The picture is becoming clearer. The latest information from the interior about the weapons caches, and now there is an active military buildup close to our borders. The entire situation was analyzed by our general staff, and our prediction is a future territorial incursion by Rumburg. Come, we will give them hell. I share your enthusiasm. We draw our strength from the brave sons and daughters of Swordland, but we wouldn't be able to stand against them right now. I require an increase in the military budget to enlist more soldiers. Only then can we stand strong against our enemies. The enlarged armed forces will hold them at bay. Vulcan is right. We do need an increase in the military budget, although we don't see eye to eye on exactly how to spend the budget. Though that much we do agree on. I have my concerns about Rumburg, too. We need strong allies to withstand such a superior power. They are our nemesis. That is an understatement. Times are changing and wars coming, Mr. President. Whether we like it or not, we must be prepared. During the election, you said nothing about focusing on our military. I ask you to reconsider and to increase the military budget. The future and safety of Swordland is in your hands. As you said, Yosef, times change. We will see. A smile brought a glimmer of hope on Yosef's face. Our forces would crumble under a decrease, and Rumburg would be much more compelled to exploit our weakness. Our country hasn't fallen to any invading force for 200 years. You cannot let it happen, Mr. President. We should find regional allies like Valexland or Lesbia to deter Rumburg. There are several options on the table. These options should be considered. They could be considered, but why pander to others when we can solve these issues ourselves? We have no true friends outside these borders. Everyone fell silent when the soldier entered the room and let Yosef Lancia know that a call had come through from the ministry. Excuse me, Mr. President. Yosef left the room to answer. A few minutes later, he entered the room again. His expression had changed. Mr. President, there has been Rumburgian military activity close to the Narble border. I just spoke with the local commander. Vulcan, we should go to the ministry and get further updates from our branches. Understood. Raising military readiness is the first call of action. If there is truly an extraordinary attempt, we will relay it to you immediately and wait for further orders, Mr. President. Remain calm. Make sure not to escalate things further. Nobody wants a war. We will exercise utmost caution, Mr. President. Hail, Swordland. Hail! They saluted and left the room. Rumburg was already testing us, and the reports from the interior indicate interference inside our borders. Communists, nationalists, Blutish rebels, Rumburg expansionism. What was next? Swordland had always been a key place in the chessboard of the global rivalry between Arcasia and United Cortana, but in the recent years there was no such aggression from Rumburg. Not at these levels, at least. All it takes is one tiny spark to start the flames of war. The phone rang. Rumburg had decided to close their consulate in Lackavan. After a long day at the palace, I was finally home. I thanked Sergei, and walked through the front gates, nodding at the two guards as I went by. And even as I turned the doorknob, I could hear Diana rushing down the stairs to greet me. I opened the door, and there she was, standing in front of me with expectant eyes. "Papa, you're home." Lift and hug her. I lifted Diana up and hugged her while trying to put the keys in the tray next to the entrance. She was growing fast. Lifting her up was no longer as easy as it once was. How's school? Boring. I liked my old school better. I put her down and her expression turned serious. Papa, are the bad men gone? It was only one bad man, Diana, and yes, he's gone now. Okay, Papa. Diana dashed down the hallway. Mama, Papa's here! Monica appeared next to the kitchen door. She was wearing an apron and holding a spatula in her hand. Diana, what did I tell you? No running in the house. Yes, Mama. Monica approached me and kissed me on the cheek. A tantalizing smell wafted from the kitchen behind her. How was your day, dear? Terrific. I finally got to do some grocery shopping, just like old times. And I'm making your favorite. You mean... Yes. Svabli. Svabli was a classic Halton delicacy. Vegetables and creamy sheep cheese sandwiched between thin layers of dough. Vegetables, creamy sheep cheese sandwiched between thin layers of dough. So like a very strange kind of sandwich. It was absolutely my favorite dish, especially paired with cabbage, a potent, unfiltered wine from Bergia. Kiss her on the cheek. I kissed Monica on the cheek. I just wanted to cheer everyone up a bit. Her smile faded, and she lowered her voice so that Diana wouldn't hear. Especially after what happened at the ball. I'm worried, Anton, for you, for the children, and for the country. Diana suddenly appeared next to us. Mama. Yes, sweetheart. I'm hungry. We'll eat in just a minute. Will you help me set the table? Anton, can you tell Frank to come down for dinner? He's been sulking in his room all day. Monica started taking out the plates while I headed upstairs to fetch my son. Loud rock and roll music echoed down the hallway from his room. I caught a faint hint of cigarette smoke. Knock on the door. I knocked on the door. There was no response. I knocked on the door again. There was still no response. Bang on the door. I banged on the door. The stereo in Frank's room clicked off. All right, all right. He unlocked and opened the door. What do you want? Hey, turn those records up louder next time, won't you? I don't think the neighbors heard. Ha ha. Frank headed downstairs to the dining room and I followed after. The table was prepared and Monica was ladling food onto the plates. Come on, have a seat. It won't be as tasty if it's cold. As we started eating, the room went quiet. Monica's cooking was as delicious as ever, but I had the feeling that wasn't the reason nobody spoke. Monica was the first to break the silence. Say, did you know that they refurbished the grocery store? I don't know if you remember the owner. He's been there every day for the past 30 years. Can you imagine doing the same job for so long? What if you were president for 20 years, for example? I don't want this country to suffer under another soul. Agreed. That must never happen again. Anyway, the grocer is a really nice person. He threw in some extra vegetables with my... Frank suddenly slammed his hands on the table, rattling the plates. Monica, Deanna, and I stared at him. So, this is how it's going to be? We're just going to sit here like nothing happened? Dad, you could have been killed. Mom could have been killed. Any one of us could have died. Deanna's lower lip started trembling. Monica put her hand on Frank's shoulder. Frank, you know I would never let anything happen to you or Deanna, even if it costs me my life. I know, but still... Can you at least tell me if something's being done about this? It was real close, Dad. My security assured me that they took all the necessary steps. The same security that let a person get shot in front of the palace? Frank, listen to your father. If your father says we don't need to worry, then we don't need to worry. You have to trust him. Monica turned to me. We all have to trust each other. Things calmed down a bit at the table. We finished our food in silence. Frank got up first and retreated back to his room. Monica lifted Deanna up and plopped her in front of the living room TV before returning to the table. She sat down across from me. Anton, he is still young. That's what worries me. I made plenty of rash decisions when I was his age. You made plenty of rash decisions now, too. Frank's not the only one who's scared, Anton. I promise. If there is truly any threat to this family, you will be the first to know. She got up, stood behind me, and massaged my shoulders for a moment before leaving me alone in the dining room. I sat alone at the table and drained my glass of cabbage. Had I been lying to Frank and Deanna? Was the threat to my family truly over? Time would tell. Sooner or later, time will tell. The political situation in the country has escalated. Chief Strategist Lucien Galad has prepared several action plans that we can execute. What will we do to address the intensifying political climate? It was late in the evening. The Maroon Palace was finally getting somewhat quiet when I returned to my office at the top. I eagerly approached my chair and sprawled out on it. It had been an exhausting day, just like every day since I took office. I stretched out my arms, leaned back in my chair, and took a deep breath. Hallsworth's skyline was daunting but beautiful. I glanced downwards out the window and saw Sergei and the guards waiting for me by the main gate. I heard a couple knocks on the door. My secretary, Livia Suno, entered. Mr. President, Mr. Tusk is here to see you. You had a meeting with the Lothberg spokesman. I'm so sorry for not giving you proper notice. Don't worry about it. Thank you for your understanding. After a moment, Mr. Tusk swaggered into the room. I'd met Swordland's most prominent businessmen once or twice, but never alone. He had large jowls, blindingly shiny shoes, the air of someone who was used to getting his way. Anything to drink, Mr. Tusk? Water? Whiskey? Cognac. Preferably from before you were born, sweetheart. I'll check the supply room. Livia backed out of the office, shooting me an apologetic look as she did so. Walter hung up his hat, which I could see was lined with mink. He fixed me a long, hard stare, then broke into a toothy grin. Good evening, Mr. President. I am here to congratulate you. We both sat down. My business partners and I wish you a successful term as the leader of our nation. Well, thank you, Mr. Tusk. I had no chance to say this at the ball with all the panic. But we are very much looking forward to working with you. Thank you. I'd like to build a profitable relationship between us. That being said, there are some concerns of mine and the people I represent, which I would like to take this opportunity to clear up. And what are those concerns? The ruined state of the economy in Swordland has influenced everyone. The recession hit all of us hard. Walter pulled out a box of cigars from his jacket. I had these brought from Lesbia, the best cigars in the whole continent. Would you like to try one? But I chose not to smoke just now. Power play. I'd rather not. I'd rather not have you smoke here. Sure, no problem. You are having a good start to the term for sure, besides the recent troubles. Glad that you have decided to promote the free market, which is the only thing that can get us out of this mess. I took favorably to my economic team's advice. You have talented economists like Mr. Hall in the cabinet, so you made the right choice. There are many other avenues where we could work together. He grinned. The highway investment was a good call, but there was more to gain in the high-speed rail, especially for business logistics. The intention of the administration is to boost the economy overall. The right intentions, for sure. We can be close allies. The group can help you get Swordland out of the recession. An NGO. Which will be the key problem to solve in your term and could even determine your re-election. Let's start with a gesture of goodwill. Soon the investment project contracts will be awarded to one of the three main contenders. He pulled a check out of his pocket and slid it towards me on the table. My personal bank details were listed on it with a deposit of 500,000 Swordish Ren ready to be transferred. This was 6 months of a president's salary. If the contract were somehow awarded to Underhall Construction, they would not only work hard and deliver, but also do it on time. What do you think, Mr. Rain? Wouldn't that be good? He put his index finger on the check. There was a noise by the door. Livia Suno was standing there, holding a tray with a bottle and 2 glasses. I'm so sorry, Mr. Tusk, but all I could find was a 1942 70. I hope that's acceptable. She quickly put the tray on my desk and walked out. Tusk eyed her as she left. Remind me to visit your office more often. Now, where were we? Do we have a deal? No bribes. I'm playing a straight man this game. No. I will make my own decisions. Walter sighed and pulled the check away, putting it in his pocket. Thank you for your visit, nonetheless. It was good to share our opinions. We will meet again in the future for sure. Oh, I almost forgot. Please say hello to Mr. Coronati for me. He smiled. Have a good evening, President. Walter stood up, grabbed his jacket, and made his way towards the door. He closed the door behind him. I gathered my things and prepared to finally head home. As I walked out, I noticed Livia staring there, covering up her typewriter for the evening. If I may be so bold, Mr. President, did you accept his offer? Of course I didn't. How could you even ask me that? The other girls have told me all kinds of dealings that went on during the Alfonso administration. I wasn't sure if he was that kind of president. I most certainly am not. She and I took a moment to look out over the lights of the city before heading to the elevators. Hey, the contract. After a lengthy drive on cliffside roads, we arrived in Lenkirk. There, crowds of cheering citizens greeted us and the local government officials escorted us to the city hall. We were here for a significant meeting about the H3 project. Several construction companies sent their representatives to the city hall. Gus Manger could not make the meeting due to his visit to Rizia. Rizia? But I had Seaman Hall and Lily's Graf by my side. Besides starting our economic recovery, this project will cut the time it takes to get here by road in half, Mr. President. More importantly, it will lead to improvements in Agland. I have lived with these people and seen them suffer. I hope so, Lilius. With the highway, we will be well on our way to economically strengthening this weak region. According to my estimations, this project will give about 50,000 citizens from England employment. Failure during this project is not an option. We'll not let the people or ourselves down. I won't let this happen to any of us. Our economic revitalization plan is set to be a success. Failure is indeed not an option. Simon searched through the documents he was holding and found the one he was looking for. I have the overview of the companies here. Simon handed the files over to me. I looked at the files. 3 corporations were listed. The Sword Estate Corporation, Underhall Construction, and Taurus Holding. I reviewed them, and also took the liberty of asking the mayor of Arvery to give his opinion on the matter. Which corporation should we talk about? Tell me about Underhall Construction. The real estate and construction giant was founded in 1925 and expanded during the economic boom of the 30s. Picking this corporation would fit our market economy policy. The CEO of Underhall is Chris Shaw, the mayor of Conriat. He sold half of his shares a few years ago. I had to work with Underhall Construction before in Halsut. They accepted several contracts for the renovation of our central station and left much to be desired. The H3 project shouldn't be left to them. And how was your experience with them? Out of all three, this is the company I trust the least. They seem to fail at respecting the contract terms of their workers. They're likely to cause trouble. I am not too sure about trusting them with a contract, but at least they have worked on several mega projects and always delivered on time. Working conditions must be respected. This doesn't inspire confidence. I agree. The workers were undocumented Agnolan and Wessex immigrants with no papers, a clear violation of our laws. According to them, the tight completion schedule necessitates such bad labor conditions, which still doesn't justify the situation. Underhall has specifically mentioned their solid track record and highlighted that they do anticipate to go over budget, but the project will be finished on time. Underhall seems interesting, but let's hear about the others. Alright, hold on 1 second. Quick Squid idle meeting. I'll be right back. Alright. Sorry, I made that as quick as possible. And yes, I did wash my hands. Tars Holding. Tars Holding was founded in 1946 and is owned by the entrepreneur Geralt Weiss. It is a new holding company whose subsidiaries use cutting-edge technology from Arcasia to reduce construction costs and prices. They are known to provide for their workers, who are part of the labor union of Swordland. There are other things Tars does very well, like providing consultants for state corporations, but I can't vouch for their infrastructure construction at all. Why should we pick Taurus? It would fit our election promises of switching to a free market economy. Awarding contracts to privately owned corporations would be a step in the right direction. Taurus has completed fewer projects than the other companies. However, they are slightly faster and cheaper. It won several awards internationally for being one of the fastest growing and advanced companies. It seems they lack the necessary experience. They were only involved in smaller-scale regional projects. This doesn't prove their capabilities for larger undertakings that are more complex. The project manager from Taurus Holding mentioned that they would be able to finish the project with the allocated funding. They are the only company who found the budget sufficient, making them a cheaper alternative. Taurus is definitely worth considering. The Sorter State Corporation. The respected Sorter State Corporation, also known as the SSC, was founded in 1891. It is the main state corporation tasked with running the day-to-day construction services for our country. The SSC is one of our most trusted and honorable companies. They have served us a long time. I have worked with them on several occasions. It goes against your election promises of moving away from a state-planned economy. Sus. Very sussy. Most importantly, the Sword Estate Corporation uses outdated methods, resulting in slower construction. A simple look at the regional highways shows us the problem. They do have a wealth of knowledge and infrastructure. I don't agree with your negative statements, Simon. The SSC's record clearly shows completed contracts with thousands of employees who have more than 20 years' experience. According to the preliminary calculations of the SSC, they would need more resources to finish a project of this size. I'm on the fence about the SSC. It was time to decide which company would be awarded the H3 highway contract. I've settled on Taurus Holding. Hurry, move closer to a state-planned economy. No, I'm moving away from the state-planned economy. We had a communist get shot the last game, and it's causing communist riots. If we turn to a state-planned economy, that means they've won. Good that we are staying consistent to our economic strategy. Simon signed a certain section of the dossier and filled his glasses. And fixed his glasses. Very well, Mr. President. The contract will be awarded to Taurus Holding. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go save Lois Lane. I wish the outcome of this meeting was different, but at the end of the day, the success of the project is what matters. The company will be notified today, and construction work will begin immediately after. Good luck to us. My expectations are here. The grand opening will happen late next year. I'd better get back to work then. Thank you. This concludes the meeting. The meeting ended, and we spent the remainder of the day attending events in Lenkirk. It was nice to enjoy the natural beauty of England and to eat some good fish. There's exclamation points all over the place. Anything else? Out in the boonies? Nope. Okay. They're all in the same area then. Where to go? Let's go to Conriat. Let's meet with Marcel Caronti, President, State Car, Road to Conriat. Our motorcade headed to the meeting location set by Marcel Caronti. I had only my most confidential and trustworthy team members with me. After a few hours of driving along River Esquel, we took a turn before entering Conriat. The darkness started setting in as we drove up a hill. Where are we, Sergey? We are nearing the HOS Country Club, Mr. President. We'll be there shortly. We arrived, and the big iron gates of the country club opened. It was a huge and outright extravagant. The main building, inspired by lesbian architecture, was illuminated from all sides. It was rather chilly. I was approached by Peter Vectorn and Lucien Galad. I hope the journey was comfortable. I can't think of comfort when our country is descending into chaos. When you put it like that. We entered the main building. After opening the marble-engraved wooden door, we were greeted by two tall women. The receptionists led us to the meeting room upstairs. Marcel was standing by the window looking outside at the beautiful complex. He turned around to have a quick look at us both. He was a strikingly handsome man with well-groomed hair. He walked towards me with his hand reached out for a handshake. Significant significant translation from Max Payne to this. Sus indeed. Hey, you know what? I'm actually having fun with the political intrigue. How you doing, man? How you doing? How you doing? Wow, be rude to him? For what reason? Why would I be rude to this guy? Let's shake hands. Be presidential. Be diplomatic. I shook his hand. He had a firm grip. It is such a pleasure to meet you in person, Miss Cronty. I appreciate your efforts to reach out and establish a mutually beneficial friendship. Hanging in there, that's good. Holidays can get crazy. Thanks for hosting us. I admired your father very much. May he rest in peace. Welcome. Your kind words have touched me, Mr. Vice President. He was indeed a great man. May he rest in peace. He was a true entrepreneur. He would have been very happy to hear this from you, Mr. President. It's time to look forward. Let's talk about our bright future. Yes, there is much to discuss. Stay silent and make it awkward. just go full autism. Don't shake his hand. Don't say anything. just fucking just make the whole fucking meeting just go off the rails. just turn around and walk out, mumbling to myself. Believe it or not, I have been a secret admirer of your political success. I find your quick rise to power was shockingly well executed. The admiration goes both ways. Marcel gently pointed at the seats. We sat down around a gigantic table. Before speaking, he knocked on wood. The past months have been tumultuous, to say the least. I am glad you and your family went unharmed at the shooting. The whole incident must have been a shock for the kids. They aren't used to what we lived through back in the late 20s. I still remember when my father took us out of the country when it became too dangerous in Conrad. They were startled, but the important thing is they are safe and sound. Of course, that is all that matters. No family should suffer from tragedy ever again. We had enough of that. The second one. Well, I am known to be a straightforward person, so let me get to point without wasting your valuable time. It was during the Alfonso campaign when I was struck by what you have done with the party. Marcel started to look at one of the paintings on the wall. I observed the painting. The famous piece depicted a giant sleeping beneath a village. The trees, rivers, and hills were all part of the giant's bodies. Its eyes were two caves looking up at the people. It showed daylight at the far left and nighttime at the far right. The giant seemed to be watching the village. It was totally unbeknownst to the villagers. Marcel pointed his finger at me. You said we would transform this nation, Mr. Rain. My conglomerate has a way of doing things, and I don't want them to change. So I want to cooperate with you. Keep going. I don't know. This sounds like kind of a sussy deal. So, cooperate. Cooperate? Please explain further. The intent is mutual. Keep going. I'm thinking 3 is maybe the better choice. Because it shows interest in cooperation, but I don't commit to anything. It's turning. So, the first one is to react with confusion. Like, cooperate? I mean, if there was a line that was gay, that would probably be the one that sounded gay. I have a family, sir. I'm sorry. I appreciate it, but listen. I'm taken. Happily married. I've got 2 kids, sir. I mean, I don't have anything against that. You do you. I'm here to represent all the people. But I'm a family man. Please explain further, so ask for details. I want to cooperate with you. Or tell him to keep going. So these 2 are kind of like the same thing. So there's these 2, which are basically the same thing. I want to cooperate with you. Or basically, what do you mean by cooperation? Four is more like I'm listening. Let's try 4. Keep going. You might have the people's support now, Mr. President. But what happens when you make mistakes? Everybody makes mistakes. What is that supposed to mean? Let's hear his point, Vice President. Being a president in this country means having many enemies. Enemies that would resort to anything to bring you down. Let's say these enemies caused a scandal or leaked sensitive information from the administration. These would be destructive when they were released. If they were released. Oh, here it comes. There is a delay from when I type chat to when you get it, so bear with me. Yeah, I think there's a delay on. Let me check. I think I can turn the delay. I think I could turn the delay down? I don't know if I can do that live. Let me find out. Settings. Do I have a delay on? I don't think I can adjust that even if there is. Ba 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 ba. I'm loving it. No. No, if I can make adjustments to it, I can't make adjustments to it when I'm live, unfortunately. So we're just gonna have to deal with the delay, apparently. Yep, there is nothing I can do. So we're just gonna have to bear with it. I feel like here's where the knife turns. This is what I feel like it. Are you threatening me? You do not want to face the wrath of my bunghole. I am President Cornholio. Cornholio. You are playing a dangerous game. Continue. I see what you're getting at. So, what I'm inferring from what he's saying, this guy's Who is this guy? I think he's a media mogul. He's a Swedish businessman, philanthropist, entrepreneur. Is the son of the famous media proprietor Konrad Karante. He is the chairman of HOS Climate, Switzerland's largest conglomerate operating the agency, energy, construction, trade, and tourism industries. He is also the chairman of Switzerland. Today is the most influenced. So yeah, basically, he's a media mogul. So what he's essentially just fucking told me is that I'm going to make mistakes or people are going to try and fuck me over. They're going to fake scandals and do whatever they can. And it would be bad for me if those things came out. If they came out. And he's inferring that he doesn't want things to change. So this is the deal I'm seeing. He wants to make a deal. He wants to maintain his control or whatever else interests he has. And in return, if shit gets real, whether I fuck up or whether somebody fakes something, he'll be in my corner. But I mean, does he really have that kind of fucking control? That's what I want to know. Because if he doesn't, if I start playing favorites with someone who can't have that kind of control, but now we're talking about fucking corruption. That is corruption. But he does bring up a good point. I mean, we just went through this with our fucking president. Russiagate? Yes, the P dossier. Hunter's laptop. All the other things that the media told us was real or wasn't real. It might be a good idea to have media in my pocket, but then again, this is a tough one. The corruption one was easy. This one is a hard one. I am seriously contemplating hearing him out the rest of the way. So basically, these two more or less are me reacting to him inadvertently threatening me. This one is just straight up calling him to calling out that he's threatening me. This is kind of more subtle, but it's more or less the same thing. These two are kind of like keep going. This is like I see what your point is. This one is just keep talking. Call him fake news. I'm sorry, Mr. Marcel Caronti, but honestly, I don't like to watch your network anyway. Quite honestly, you and your entire network are fake news. You are fake news. And I'm sorry. You are the massive forehead Marcel. Massive forehead. I don't say this. The people say this. People come up to me and they say, Marcel Caronti has such a massive forehead. He's trying to hide it with that hairpiece. And I'm saying, you can't say those things. That's incredibly rude. I don't say these things. People say these things to me all the time. Let's hear him out. I'm going to be non-committal here, because this one seems to be the most non-committal. Keep going. Assume that the articles would actually protect your integrity no matter what. Try to imagine how up to 5 million people I reach will not lose faith in you. You aren't just being nice, are you? I want 2 things, Mr. President. Number 1 is a guarantee from you that the Reign administration won't meddle in HOS affairs no matter what happens. So he doesn't want me to fuck with his media empire, for one. Don't fuck with his media empire. And he'll be in my pocket. But number 2 is a simple gentleman's favor for the future. Let me prove my services to you first, and I'm sure you won't disapprove when the time comes. That's, That's, oof. I mean, that's a hell of a deal. He's basically guaranteeing that we'd have 5 million. Basically, his network is going to be in my pocket. Basically, yeah, it is CNN. Like, the HOS network is always going to talk about what a good job Rain, what is it? Yeah, Rain. Rain. They're always going to be like I could go outside. I could fucking my kid when he grows up could start, doing illegal things, and they're going to be like, "Oh, we don't know anything about his kid doing anything bad." I don't no, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to play the honest guy, and we'll see how badly it fucks things up. We'll see if I can get a quick game over from trying to be too honest of a politician. That would be funny if this game literally has no way to be an honest straight guy. Well, we know how it played out in CNN's case, so you may as well just call him out on the bullshit. This is far too risky for me. Great risk means great reward. This mutually beneficial cooperation will help you greatly. I can guarantee that you will see its benefits sooner than later. We can make history together if we dare to challenge the odds. You've been awfully silent, Peter. Peter leaned into my ears and whispered, I think he's getting more of this than we are. The issue tied to his request must be so important for him that he is offering this risky deal. We need to be cautious. If we get caught or this gets out, I can't imagine the consequences. Marcel interrupted us. So, do we have a deal? Mr. Cronty, I have to reject. Such a shame, Mr. President, and here I thought you were going to be good friends. It's a shame, really. Remember who you are speaking to, Mr. Caronte. Oh, I know very well. Let's leave. We left the complex and entered the car. I thought that would have ended better. He pushed it too far. The threats were unacceptable. So ultimately, this is something I'm curious about this game, and it will be interesting to see what happens in further playthroughs. Does the fact that I went through all of that dialogue with him change anything, or would it be the same as if I just straight up called him on his bullshit at the beginning of the game and was like, "Are you threatening me?" Kevner demands emergency to be called. The leader of NFP, Kesaro Kibiner, has demanded an emergency to be called to address the increasing political violence in the country. He stated that without declaration of emergency, Swordland would be destabilized and the integrity of the country would be damaged even further. You know what? I'm actually kind of feeling some medieval dynasty. What do you think? We're at the 90-minute mark, so we've already gone 30 minutes past the usual length of these streams. And the intrigue of being threatened by a major media mogul would be a good place to end off on anyway. Let's do this one last mission for the day and see what happens. With the assistance of the National Business Council and the Central Bank, Seaman Hall put forth a country-wide relief plan to mitigate the economic hardships that are being felt. We can either provide stimulus checks for people in need, or bail out businesses under serious financial strain, or decide not to approve the plan. Oh my God! Inflation, bailouts. These are both terrible ideas. We know how this shit plays out in the real world. In the real world, the government just keeps handing out stimulus checks and increasing fucking inflation. Before you know it, your fucking McDonald's costs $20 for a fucking meal, even though it's supposed to be cheap food made for people that aren't having a lot of money. Bailing out businesses doesn't work either. These are all terrible options, except for don't enact the plan. I am wondering, Simon, are there any economical metrics in this game? I believe there is. Let me see if there's a way to look at it. Actually, I don't know. That's a good question. No, I don't think there's any. No, I don't think that there's any actual metric tracking. I think it's more like a visual novel / choose your own adventure sort of game. So let's look at it from a non-gamer perspective. I'm assuming this will probably get us the favor of the people. This will get us the favor of the businesses. We're already doing a favor for the people, though, by building the road out towards, what's it called? England. So we're already doing the people a favor by building a road out to them. We could balance it out by increasing favor with the businesses. That way, we're helping both the people and the businesses to try and balance out instead of just going for the people. I'm assuming we want to try and balance things out to get as many people on our side as possible. So, even though I don't like either of these choices, I'm thinking from maybe a game perspective, this would be the better one, because this would give us favor with the businesses, which I'm assuming is what the decision here is. We can either side with the people, side with businesses, or don't help anybody. I'm really kind of interested to see how this one's going to play out, because that that would be interesting to see how the how far ahead the game creators have made this. So I think I'm gonna go with business bailouts. Government support for businesses under financial strain has slightly stabilized the downward spiral of unemployment. While the economic situation remains challenging, the support provided by the government has helped to mitigate the negative impact on employment. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to play out. I'm interested to see how it is. Dare, what's going on over there? Anyway, we're at the 100-minute mark. Use some of the left's techniques and see if they result positively if the means of games was designed by a bunch of UC Berkeley graduates. But yeah, I think I will. I think I'll wrap up the stream here. 90 minutes, and that's a pretty good point to end on. Being threatened by a major media mogul and enacting business bailouts. So next time we'll be able to pick it up. And what is the next thing that's going on? Oh, we're attending the funeral of the communist. Well, that will be interesting. I think that will be a good start to the next stream. So, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for being here. Thank everybody who pops in, and even if you don't say hi, if you pop in for the live, at least to take a look and see what's going on. Thank you everybody who checks out the VODs later. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I am enjoying this. Later today, or tomorrow, whatever you want to call it, I'll probably do some more Max Payne 3 and actually get around to playing Yog-Sothoth's Yard. But, I mean, Yog-Sothoth's Yard's probably going to be as much rating as this game, and I'm having a lot of fun with the political intrigue stuff. So, that's very interesting. I don't know. And I fuck with it. It gives me the ability to kind of make riff and do political jokes and whatnot. But yeah, thanks everybody for your continuing support. And as always, I'll see y'all out there and take her easy. Whatever you do.